Hello again. Last time we looked at why you want to write. This time we'll be looking at knowing your audience. Now, you may think that the two go hand in hand. They can do. So, for example, if you've decided that you're writing your book for your grandchild, then obviously your audience is your grandchildren or grandchild, and that's fine. But let's just think a little bit more widely. You might be having coffee with a friend and you're having a chat and they say, so what are you up to? And you say, well, actually, I've decided to write a book for my granddaughter. About when I was younger, first jobs, bit of social history, the things that have changed since I was a lad. That's interesting. I might like to read that when you've finished. Oh, not thought of that. So it's quite natural that your friends will want to read what you've written, in the same way that if a good friend of yours had written a book, you'd like to know what they'd written. And so that brings a slightly wider audience already. So I've identified 4 sorts of audiences for us to look at here. The first of which is quite rare. It's just purely for yourself. Nothing wrong with that. If you're doing the book for yourself, you might want to just put all your thoughts and feelings. Maybe you don't want anyone to read it, or maybe you will leave it in your will or something for people to read then. As I say, that's quite rare. The second is what we discussed a bit earlier, which is, close friends and family. People who know a lot about you and who are on your side, and you want to write for them. But of course, if you do present a book to them, there's nothing to stop your friends then lending it to another friend, and the book can sort of take a life of its own. So you've got to be aware of that if there are personal things that you're going to include in about the family. And of course, I suppose, then there's a whole wider circle of friends who you might want to write the book for. Or indeed the fourth way, which is you might want the book published, you might want the whole world to read your book. We'll be discussing the difficulties of that later and why not to raise your expectations. But sadly, the books that do sell tend to be those that are quite controversial and sensational. And if you're thinking of putting things like that in, well, family might not necessarily be happy with that. So do consider that. And as I say, we'll be discussing that at a later stage. But of course, there's no reason why you can't write for 2 audiences. So it can be for close friends and family with all the details of personal thoughts and feelings and everything else, which is lovely, and talking about the family, which is great and to be expected. But should the book go slightly further afield, the way that we can do publishing these days, you can always take out the odd sentence, a paragraph or 2, a page or 2, certain photos, and we will be discussing that at a later stage. So at this stage, just write for. I'd advise that you write it for close friends and family and put everything in the same way that if your grandfather written a book, what would you want to know? The answer is pretty well everything. So, but knowing your audience has 2 further considerations. The first of which is who to tell or not tell about this particular project. As I've just said, if you mention it to a friend, suddenly the implications of that could be every time you meet up for coffee, it could be, oh, how's the book going? And after a while, that could be a bit of a pain because it's going to take 6 months, a year to do a book. And of course, also you may find, and it could be particularly siblings, that people start offering advice and you think, hang on a minute, this is my book, I want to do it. So that's one thing. But of course, if you don't tell about the book, you've got other implications of that. One of which may be, if you want to write, I don't know how many O-levels your son got, or get some certain photos and things. So you'll have to resort to a bit of subterfuge, but that can be quite fun, Jim, I was just speaking to Betty the other day. How many O-levels did you get? Oh, yeah, I thought so. And yeah, that photo you've got, the one of us when the shed fell down. The one? Yeah. Can I just get it? I want to show it to Fred, yeah. So that can be a bit of fun, but that's up to you. The second consideration is of knowing your audience is the writing style, whether it's to be formal or informal. It will tend to be more informal if it's for friends and family. I mean, just imagine this could be a later project once you finish the writing. You could always sit in an armchair like me now and read your book onto camera, so people get your mannerisms, your voice, everything else, and that will live on, which could be fun. So that's rather a nice style to think in writing like that. Some people prefer a more formal approach. Maybe they've been used to writing reports all their life for business. I mean, some people even like to adopt, which is very rare, to write in the third person. John did this, John did that, rather than writing in the first person, which is usual, I and me and we. And don't worry about using those sorts of words. People can be quite self-conscious, but we use them in speech, and I would encourage you just to do that in your writing. So be comfortable and do it right exactly as you would speak to people. That would be my advice. But of course, you make those decisions. And there's nothing to stop once you've started writing, and you can read it back. And if you think, actually, no, I don't like that, then you can change that. So no problem at all. We'll just get you started soon. So 3 bits of homework this time, which is interesting. The first is to write down who your intended audience is, and if that's to extend, how you'd feel about that. That's number 1. Number 2 is to get out some of your old address books and Christmas card lists. You know, I'd suggest if you've been sending some Christmas cards for 30, 40 years, wouldn't they like to read your book? The answer is yes, so consider those. But the third bit of homework that goes hand in hand with that is once you start looking at those old names and address books, a flood of memories is sure to start following. So get 2 or 3 notepads. Leave one by your bed, leave one in your handbag, in the car, in the pocket. Just capture these memories when they start coming, because they surely will. And that's part of the fun of it. And we'll be going on to that later. Don't forget, you can move ahead to other modules in this whole program. So it's up to you to pick and choose. Next time, we will be looking at the different types of projects you might like to consider. And that's going to be great fun. So I look forward to meeting you again then. Thanks very much.